So I'm watching this episode of Dr. Phil, and I know, I know, I know. I grew up with Dr. Phil in the background, and so when I'm doing things, I like to have on things that I know or a familiar voice. And I was thinking about how weird that is. And I'm watching this episode. I'm talking about hoarding. And for my neurodivergent peeps, I was thinking about this the other day. It is really hard to be neurodivergent, artistic, or like crafty, because we get onto kicks, right? Um, but then we spent all this money and we know how to do this and we're really good at it, but we don't have time and it's all buried and it's just such a hot mess. Two things. Number one, it is possible to organize it. It took me a lot, and it took me a lot of not only doing this crazy cleaning, but it took a lot emotionally to get through it. So that is definitely a thing. Then I thought, you know, it'd be brilliant is if all of us crafty, neurodivergent people got together, and this was like a meme, I'm sure. I know it was. And just made bins of our craft stuff and rotated it through a friends group like a book. But here is a craft. I can teach you how to do this. As I realized as I was actually looking for something, that I have a whole set of things for sculpture. I have acrylic paint, I have oil paints, I have 86,000 canvases, I have raw wool, I know how to spin, I know how to card, I have all of this cool stuff. But so I can teach you guys on YouTube, but in our own communities, I think we should normalize teaching our friends crafts and then here are some supplies. Go forth. And people can teach us things, and then they can be like, go forth. How cool would that be? We do it with books, right? But these craft supplies are just sitting here. They're not getting used. Can you imagine the amazing art that we could create if there was more than one of us? Because how many of us have half-finished projects around the house that we don't have time to finish, but you know what? Maybe one of your friends or members of the community or something, really want to try that. So I think we should normalize that. I think we should normalize asking our friends if they want to learn how to blah, 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 or finish this yada, yada. How fun would that be? Anyway, these are the things I think of when I watch Dr. Phil. This was a whole big episode, and I'm just watching this woman go, her family's, just think she's crazy, and, I look at that and I'm like, that could have been me, a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, before I had to clean, before I had to organize. I had everything was everywhere, and I had all of the best intentions. So I had my art stuff that was kind of precariously stacked in groups of things. I had the yarn in my kids' room. I had half of my beading stuff in the bedroom. I had half of it in the dining room. I had just figured that I would never be able to access my paints or my easels. And it was so insurmountable. So if you were an artist and you are looking at all of your substrates, all of your mediums, all of the different stuff that you can do that you no longer feel like you have time for because it's a mess, start a bin at a time, start a craft at a time, and just start dividing it up. You don't have to do it all right away, but it is feasible in little bite-sized chunks, all right? But what I want you to do when you're organizing that is, as soon as you start feeling not okay and you start feeling really overwhelmed, stop. You've done enough. That's enough. No more today, because you are no longer in the right frame of mind. That was really, really hard for me with my painting supplies. When you can't get to everything and it gets overwhelming. But if you can at least say, I'm going to pull out all of my sketchbooks. And you make a pile of your sketchbooks, and that's it. And that's okay for a day, because that's hard, right? And you don't throw anything out. You're not getting rid of anything. You're literally just organizing it. You would not believe the amount of stress and, feeling incompetent, like having imposter syndrome about doing something. I've never considered myself an artist until recently. And cleaning through all of this stuff has made me, it sounds so dumb, right? But it made me remember all of these cool things that I actually know how to do. Like, I'm looking at this craft stuff being like, why did I buy all of this? What is this? It's like, oh, wait, no, I know how to make bath bombs. I know how to, sculpt. And once it's all organized, you're like, oh, I have the best idea. But the idea behind this is to get your space organized, get your brain organized. Let's bring back your creativity. And if we have stuff that we're just like, I'm never going to do this again, I hated it. Like my mom, super famous artist. Okay, super famous. I think she. But she hated oil paints. Hated. Vehement passion of 1,000 red suns. Hated. And so she just gave them to me. And that opened her up, where she then decided to learn vegetable dyeing and how to dye and card and spin wool. She's also won awards for. Like, being able to gift someone your knowledge and your expertise has value in and of itself. So my neurodivergent bebes who are artists, small steps, little bites, it's going to get there. And if it doesn't, pass it on to someone who is going to need it. See? Dr. Phil, man, every once in a while he leads to brilliance.